welcome to Soundtown. Welcome back to Soundtown, I should say. What is this episode? This is going to be 15, I think, Eric. 15 episodes in.
No, this is our 100th episode. This is the 100th episode spectacular.
That's right, so you better keep listening because there's a surprise at the end. 100 episode spectacular. We're going to give away, you guessed it, $100,000.
Whoa.
I said dollars. I meant to pronounce it doll hairs. That's right.
Whoa.
One lucky winner will get 100,000 individual Barbie doll hairs. You might get some blonde, you might get some brunette, even some gray. But if you stick with listening, you're going to get that doll hair.
You'll get something, all right.
You'll get something. And on this fake 100th spectacular, we have none other than special guests, brother duo tag team superstars, Jared and Julian Garcia. Originally, Eric, we were supposed to only have Jared come on to promote his new short film, Still With Us, which is in the festival circuit right now. It's a great little short film that he put together. And literally right before we hopped on our session here, he said, "Hey, is it cool if my brother Julian hops on with us?" And it made me so excited because I know Jared through his brother Julian. Julian and I went to college together. And the only person that I know, Eric, who's more into film than Jared is Julian. So they both graced us with their presence. Julian, of course, executive produced Jared's short film. And then Julian himself made a short film. And we talked all about, you guessed it, short films.
And so much more.
And so much more. If you don't know Jared and Julian, you'll come to find out just how into cinema that they are. They go on these beautiful little tangents with such expertly crafted and well thought opinions. I love them to death. They're just also really great people. So we hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we enjoyed having it with them. And we'll check back in after the episode to tell you who wins the 100th episode spectacular. What are you gaming back there?
You're not supposed to see me doing this.
Which Spider-Man?
The 2018 one, because I just found out that I have purchasing power.
Yeah.
It was a game that I wanted to play. And then I decided, hey, money can be used to buy goods and services.
That's true.
I decided to go with the idea that I could use my money for the purposes of good.
What console are you working with?
PS4, because I'm still trying to catch up. I still play my PS3 because I just don't. I stopped gaming for such a long time. This interview is not supposed to be about me.
Well, I didn't realize. No, let's talk about this because I didn't know that you were a gamer, maybe I just didn't think of you to be a gamer. And
Jared,
you surprise me every day, Julian. That's what you do.
I really think you should be the one to answer this question.
No, do you want a throwback? I sometimes take out the PlayStation Vita and I just start playing that.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
What's the oldest console you either own or remember playing?
I think it was the PS1, right?
Yeah, the oldest one that I remember playing is PS1.
Yeah, we have a PS1.
No, wait, hold on a second. The Sega game.
Yeah.
It's not the Dreamcast, but what was the one before that?
Genesis?
Was it the handheld one?
Say that again?
Was it the handheld Sega one?
I think so.
No, the Sega one, the one
It
with the
had the
square,
gun,
the
right?
square remote.
Yeah, the square remote. And was it connected to anything?
It was connected straight to
Probably.
the console, and we played baseball a lot.
Baseball. And then there was a shooting game.
Yes, and there was a gun that was attached to it. It was like one of those saloon type things.
Oh.
Where you point the gun and it happens. The magic happens.
The first console I did was a Sega Genesis because I had older cousins, and we'd play Sonic, and there was a WWF game that they had that was a lot of fun. Oh, I didn't. So are you looking in, now that you have purchasing power, are you looking into getting a PS5 or are you not there yet?
Not even there yet. Probably when the PS6 comes out is when I'll start getting into the PS5.
Well, it's like, I don't know if you've been keeping track of that. It's literally like impossible to get a PS5.
I've not heard, but I actually kind of like the sound of that.
Well, because since the pandemic, they didn't want people flocking to stores, so it's all been online.
Mhm.
But because it's all online, people just like have bots buy like 20 a piece at a time so that they could resell it for like double the retail price.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I think it just further emphasizes the idea that the choice is out of my hands. So I don't have a choice in that matter, and I think I like that. I like the idea of that.
It's probably better off.
Are you a gamer, Russ? Do you enjoy gaming?
Not as much as perhaps the next guy. I have like a handful of video games that I enjoy playing. Maybe like Madden or a Star Wars game here or there, but I'm not like on COD every night or Fortnite or God of War or whatever the heck kids play nowadays. Eric, you don't game a lot, do you?
No, just like Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption.
I
Yeah.
respect that.
Yeah, just
You can play
not a whole lot.
decades.
Yeah, exactly. Like I must have gone through Skyrim like at least 15 times by now, but only getting up to like level like 25, 30 and then just restarting.
I was afraid to play Skyrim simply because I was afraid that I was just going to turn into one of those life-sucking things.
Yeah, it'll do that sometimes.
That's why I never played Mass Effect. I never played the new Red Dead Redemption. Just like all of those games, if it doesn't have like a 15-hour campaign that's just straight through, it's just like this. I'm going to disappear into this, and that's not going to be good for anything, any part of my life.
How deep into Spider-Man are you? Potential spoilers for those playing.
67%.
67 or 6 or 7?
67%.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
They try to hide a twist in the game, and I'm just like, that was fairly obvious that they were gonna.
Yeah. So that game, it's pretty. The story and the characters could be pretty cheesy, but the background and the character motives, that's really impressed me.
Yes.
They did a really good job with that stuff.
So you played it then?
Yeah, I just finished it because. So for Christmas, my mom's like, "I'm gonna get you guys a PS5." We're like, "Good luck with that." She didn't, but she got us an extra PS5 controller and Miles Morales on PS5. So I'm just staring at it, waiting to play it. And I said, "Well, I gotta finish the first game," and I got around to finishing it.
It's always just a lot of fun. I can't stop thinking about it. It's so colorful and it's so festive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love the open world New York map. There's been a couple Spider-Man games that had that, and this one obviously is the most expansive. So that's always just, sometimes I'll just log on just to zip around the city, see what's what.
So do you ever go around and take a look at, like, do you just sit down and sit? Do you just go around? Okay, real question. Do you zip around to try and find places that you recognize just so you can?
Yeah, all the time. I don't. So like I work. You guys know I work in the city. I don't think my building lives in the game, which is kind of sad. But like I'm on Park Ave, and the Park Ave's pretty. It's like pretty easy to find in there, and there's buildings like the MetLife building is a real building in New York, and it's the MetLife building because it's pretty big, and at the top it says MetLife, but it's not in the Spider-Man game. The Spider-Man game, it's the building shape, but it says something else on top. So yeah, I definitely look for landmarks, and some of them are there, which is cool, but it's not New York actual size, because if it was, it'd be stupid. Are you looking for landmarks that you're familiar with in there?
Every time I pass something and I recognize, I'm just like, oh, I've been there before.
Are you taking pictures? Are you doing the picture feature?
I've finished all the landmarks. I found all the backpacks. So
what about the hidden landmarks? Do you know about those?
No. I don't know anything about that.
There's some. You just gotta whip if you see something that's like, oh, that looks nice. You take the camera out, and then they're like, oh, this is a hidden landmark. Take a pic.
My goodness. I did not know that.
This podcast is now a Ultimate Spider-Man tutorial guide.
Unfortunately, I hijacked it. I'm so sorry, Jared.
No, it's okay.
No, this is.
It's fine.
we're flowing, and now we're in
Yeah,
a
come on.
groove, so we
Yeah.
can transition into maybe allowing me to introduce you two fine gents.
Of course. Or we
And
could just keep talking about video games. Have you played Ghost of Tsushima yet?
I haven't, but I heard it's a good. So, okay,
awesome.
I'm not a gamer, but I've recently,
Thank you.
again, with the pandemic, you don't have much else to do, so you've been hearing about like all of these really great games. And okay, we can talk about this because I'm sure you two have noticed. You two are two of the biggest cinephiles that I know, and I don't know if you take that as a compliment or not. I mean it, of course, in a good way. But video games are like the new movies now. Like they are bringing in actors and pretty acclaimed directors to motion cap stuff, and the way that they're filming the stories and the way that you get to control those stories. It's like movies now, right?
More or less, I guess.
More or less.
Yeah, you can definitely make a case for that.
Mhm.
And I do know that Tsushima had a mode called Kurosawa mode. So it was a very clear influence on those samurai Japanese movies from the 50s. I felt miffed. I feel like that should have been like a Mizoguchi mode. That would have been more authentic. But I guess they just tease everyone. So it's the Kurosawa mode.
Yeah, Kurosawa is the most popular Japanese filmmaker, but he's not the best. He's the more like he's someone where you introduce people who have never seen Japanese films or foreign films. Like he's very easy to get into, but then like once you start going into like Japanese history and you see a lot of the films from that era, you see like Mizoguchi and Ozu, who were the other two big Japanese filmmakers in that era, are just so much richer and so much more intense and so much fuller that you go back to Kurosawa and it's just like this is kind of like it moves nicely and the stories are interesting, but it's just missing something. It's missing that I don't know how to explain it. Just that universality, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That specific. I don't know how to describe it. It's just missing the special sauce. We'll call it. It's missing the special sauce.
Yeah.
It's spiceless. All of his movies are spiceless.
When you watch those directors' films, you're saying that they're in the same era. Do you see them influencing each other, or are they all going their own path?
Different paths, I'd say.
Different paths. Some of them do like each other. Other people absolutely despise one another.
The drama.
Yeah, it's very funny and it is very crazy. But
I've got Seven Samurais on queue here.
Ooh.
I've got HBO Max on HBO Max. I was about to go watch it later this week. So I'm glad that we're talking about this now. Should I skip the Kurosawa and do these other guys?
No, definitely start.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely start. Like Rashomon is a great place to start also, and I think it's a lot easier to watch than Seven Samurai because Seven Samurai is freaking 4 hours long.
Yeah. Drunken Angel's another good one. That's not so much samurai, but it's good Kurosawa. It handles noir, and it's very intense. All the actors just overcompensate their emotions, but it's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah, Throne of Blood is another favorite of mine by Kurosawa.
Yeah,
it's funny how we just talked about just like how much we dislike him.
It's great. Yeah. I love Kurosawa.
Throne of Blood contains the scariest shot of trees you'll ever see in a movie. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
And that's part of like mostly the reason why I like it.
Throne of Blood. Let me just throw that out there. It's actually an adaptation of Shakespeare, Macbeth. So
Yes.
if you're familiar with the story of Macbeth, then Throne of Blood's essentially just Macbeth, but with samurai.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
They all like to adapt everything.
So if our listeners haven't caught on yet, you two are like super into film, which is so great. You're so knowledgeable and you have such the way that you're able to articulate your opinions. I tell you all the time how much I admire it. I'd hate to ask the stupid question of like what got you into it, but like where like were your parents into film? Did they always have you watching movies? Is it something that you discovered on your own? And if so, how did that come about?
Our father really loves movies, but it was something that he tried to share, but we weren't really interested at the times that he was watching it. Like we watched Gone with the Wind and we watched It's a Wonderful Life and we watched like a few classic movies, like the canon classic movies, the ones where you're just like AFI Top 100. Like those are the movies that he really loved, and I never really got into them, and you weren't really that interested either.
Yeah.
Jared's not shaking his head for anybody
And,
listening.
and like, how old would you have been when you first saw those?
I was in 3rd grade when I saw Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
I remember being angry after watching it.
I mean, those are, first of all, you're 3rd grade. They're 3-hour slow films, right? Or is that, are you able to comprehend exactly what's going on in the story? Could you appreciate it from that age?
Definitely not. I just saw
Yeah.
it out in certain ways and just being upset and sad. It's Wonderful Life. I actually loved It's Wonderful Life when I saw it, and I think I was in middle school at that time. But it didn't really kickstart anything. That movie made me want to be like, you sit down, you watch it, and you're just like, man, I really want to be a good person.
Yeah, it's a pretty good way to describe it. I liked what you said before. It is a lot of baseline emotions, so you don't exactly know the political undertones or whatever the movie's trying to say, but you just do understand how the characters are feeling, or you get a sense of sympathy for these characters when they're in a rock or a hard place. Like with Jimmy Stewart in like the last third of that movie, no idea what was going on when I was 7, but all I knew was, man, that guy's going through something terrible. I feel sad. But yeah, It's a Wonderful Life definitely had a strong influence on us. I remember you tried to show me Gone with the Wind. That wasn't great.
Because that was when I started so I turned to answer your first question. I turned to movies out of like desperation almost. Because I felt very directionless throughout much of the first portion of high school. And I'd been watching westerns, and I loved westerns, but nothing else. And then I started watching classic movies, and Casablanca was the one that kind of kickstarted everything for me, because I thought the characters were so cool and so romantic, and the photography was so mysterious and smoky, and the story was just so enlightening and wonderful and everything, and blah blah blah. And I was just like, man, if this movie could be this awesome, I wonder if all the other movies that I missed out on when I was younger and my sister and father were watching it, like how many of those were cool, and I didn't know anything about them. So I ended up trying to start with Gone with the Wind, and I was trying to respectfully watch the movie as it was intended to, which was in one sitting on the largest screen possible. So I dragged Jared with me, and the entire time he would be like, Julian, can we pause this? And I said, 1 4-hour movie, Jared. All I ask of you.
So, I mean, Jared, did it take you a little while to get as into the movie stuff as your brother, or did it kind of click around the same time for you? You were just into different stuff.
It kind of took me some time, definitely a few years before everything clicked. And I think it clicked for me when I was 15, and I know exactly which movie I'm thinking of that made everything all the better. And he showed me this Paul Thomas Anderson film with Adam Sandler called Punch Drunk Love.
Yep.
And that was, at the time, it was, here's the Criterion copy of Punch Drunk Love. There's a lot of light. But this was the movie, I think, that spoke to me the most at the time. Barry Egan, Adam Sandler's character, and his sense of awkwardness, and this inner world that he had was almost like a musical. That's something that really turned me on to movies. Like, I didn't have to think of movies strictly as storytelling. Like, here's the beginning, middle, and end, and how is the story? I was able to think now, oh, here's a guy that I understand. I understand his viewpoint. I may not, be totally. I don't have the same experiences as that guy, but I can relate to his personality, and personality must be good in movies. And that's how I just started moving forward, thinking of movies as a way to just insert my personality into them, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it changed my view of movies, Punch Drunk Love, and that's because that's his fault.
It's technically not my fault. I didn't pick the movie.
Yes, you did.
I loved the movie, but I didn't pick it. It was the person who was running the movie club in our high school at the time.
I remember you telling me about it, though. You said, this character is exactly like you.
Did I say that?
You did, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I did love the movie when I first saw it. Because I had a friend, the person who had actually gotten me into all of this was a close friend of mine. His name was Steve, because he was really into movies, and he introduced me to a lot of people like Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson. He got me into French films and got me into watching movies outside of my comfort zone, which at that point was just mainly old Hollywood black and white movies. He was just like, oh, there's this cool French director from the 60s named Jean-Luc Godard. You might like him. And here's this guy working today named Wes Anderson, and you might like him. And here's this guy, Paul Thomas Anderson. Punch Drunk Love is a great movie. And then it was all of it is just like a web of like this person influenced this person. If you like this person, that you're this person. And that's one of the best parts, is that all of it is pretty much interconnected. And the great thing about movies in general is that they combine so much from everything else. Like you can say this director loved this author and this author influenced their work on this movie. And this author mentions this composer in their book, or they were talking about this painting, and it all kind of just mixes in together, where the director is like, I was trying to make this shot like this famous photograph, or this was the main inspiration. And then you just like, you just a rabbit hole of people influencing other people, and not just movies, but all art. It's like, that's one of the best parts about it.
So then maybe you two as filmmakers now, where do you look to for inspiration? You probably don't look anywhere specific. I'm sure it just comes to you, but is it a lot of it from some of your favorite directors, or is it from some artists that maybe I might not be familiar with, whether it's musical or a painting or a sculpture or something like that? What kind of gets the gears going for you two?
I wish I had a specific answer for that, and I wish I had an answer related directly to Still With Us. But the fact of the matter was, I was watching a lot of movies at that point.
And you said, I could do this.
Yeah, something like that. No, I don't know.
Well, you listen to a lot of music.
Yes.
And that influences the personalities and the tone and the what's the word? The speed, pace, the pace of the movie and the character. That you've explained that to me before.
Yeah. I have no idea where to start. I think for this movie specifically, and if I can just break it down, I remember listening to Maxine Brown's version of Oh No, Not My Baby. And I just really liked the melody of that song. I liked the pacing of just the beat. It felt like a very carefree summer day, to put in very abstract emotional terms. And that's something I definitely connected with at that point. And I was like, if I can make this into a movie, that would be great. I guess I get hit with imagery. I remember thinking while listening to that song, Oh No, Not My Baby, of Sprawling Hills. I remember thinking of the back roads for Howell, New Jersey, because that's something that I've always just either walked around or been driven around through many a time throughout my life. And yeah, it hit abstractly at first before anything just kind of settled down and became concrete into the storyline that we have right now for this short film. Sure. But yeah, music plays a part.
Your memories and the day that you wrote the film and also play a part.
Yeah, a lot of this was definitely inspired by personal memories from my life.
Of course.
There was one specific tragedy that did motivate this movie, but yeah.
Do you want to give a synopsis of the film for those who might be listening?
Of course. So Still With Us is about a young girl named Joan Selang, who is going through a summer malaise, and she comes across a memory of getting a memory stone from her older sister, Maxine Selang. And at this point, she's passed away. She has died from a tragic car accident. And when she,
you don't want to spoil anything, huh?
Tricky.
That's why I wanted you to give the synopsis.
Oh boy. But no, so for the duration of the movie, Joan tries to relocate this memory stone that's been lost to her for a few years now. And finding that memory stone just triggers her through a sort of journey through space and time of recalling these past events with her sister and seeing how just the sort of person she was, the sort of person she hoped to be in relation to her sister. And is this making any sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I watched it when you first sent me the link, and Eric had just watched it today to prepare. I mean, that makes sense to me, right,
It's nice
Eric?
and fresh in my brain. Yeah, definitely.
Nice and fresh, yeah. So it plays very non-linearly, is the point of the movie. And Joan Selang's character journey is trying to find this memory stone, and this memory stone, in essence, will help her move on from the tragedy of what happened to her sister, and she'll be able to live her own life.
Sure.
There's a cool, if I may interject, there's a cool narrative, what's the word? I guess gamble, I want to say, because the memory stone, and like it's not necessarily a spoiler because it's basically the what's the word? The still for the trailer. The memory stone plays like a halfway kind of like it is like a halfway point almost because like it hangs over a lot of the movie before it comes into play. And so you see the effect of it. If you see, like, if you watch it more than once, like you see the effect of it before its existence is actually like brought up to the viewer, and then the effect of it being remembered plays out for the rest of the movie. If that makes sense. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
And that's something that I really love about this movie and about a lot of movies that Jared was drawing influence from. And I don't want to speak too much about a lot of this because that can tie into a lot of the Japanese movies we were talking about in the beginning.
Well, so, Jared, you wrote and directed. Am I missing any other credits for this film?
I was an executive producer technically, and I also co-edited it.
That's awesome. And Julian also executive produced?
Yes, he did.
That's fantastic. And so I think we touched on the inspiration, but it's one thing to listen to a song and get some ideas brewing, but what does it take for you to actually buckle down and say, okay, I'm going to put like some serious time and effort into writing the script, getting a group of people together, and like actually making this thing possible? Because I imagine, I'd like to, and again, I like to think that people who are listening to this, want to get into music, or particularly in this case, like want to get into making films. I got to imagine like actually going out and doing the thing is the hardest part, right?
It, in a way, yes, it was. I don't know what it is. This was a very unique situation where I realized I had beginning, middle, and end of the narrative already in my head. So writing the script out was actually the easiest part of production. And I think the script was 24 pages and it took me about a week. And I think a lot of that ease could be contributed to the fact that I lived these situations and I knew who these characters were in real life. So essentially, it was pretty much taking memories and putting them down on paper. I did a few more drafts, 3 or 4 more drafts, which did take a few more weeks. But the funny thing about making this movie was the fact that I didn't intend to have this movie get this big. It was just going to quite literally be just a small project with some friends. And if they were able to get together with me, that's fine. I won't make this movie at all. But I showed the script to Julian, and he became my producer.
The biggest mistake of his life.
He read the script and he was like, "Yo, this is amazing. I love it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it might happen, it might not." And he's like, "Nah, this is gonna happen." And
Nice.
so yeah, he
It's a
assembled.
good producer right there.
Yeah, he's an amazing producer. He assembled this entire project more or less. He had connections, and he got a group of people together who helped with pre-production.
Oh man, we blew it up.
Yeah, we blew this up.
Jared initially was telling me how he was going to cast actors from New York and kind of just like off the cuff kind of do it. And when I read the script and I heard that he was going to do that, I was just like, no, this deserves a lot more. Just reading the script, I was just like, no, this requires almost like a full treatment. And so we had a bunch of friends that we had been working with. Like we worked with a bunch of people in Asbury Park. Who I would edit. Like it was just like it's like a dream filmmakers collective where people just all collaborate on each other's films. And I had been collaborating with this group of people where I'd edit all of their films. And so I knew one guy who was good at running a set. So I was just like great. And I knew someone who was really good at organizing scenes and being like a good point person. And so I was just like, oh, I know her. Let's get her on here. I knew someone who was really good at set design. Of course, our mutual friend Nick had expressed to me earlier that he was interested in getting back in cinematography, and he had shot all my previous projects. And he kind of stepped away from it. And then I think this project probably made him not want to ever do it again. it was so intense, and so much of it was so like labor intensive and long working hours and a lot of pressure. But yeah, I remember when just like pulling all of the resources together to get this off the ground, because we were just talking about this before. There were 42 scenes.
42 scenes, and we shot all of them in 3 days.
Wow.
Yes, and I remember the gaffer for that movie, or was it the grip? No, it was the gaffer of the movie. He walked up to me and said, this was a 6-day shoot, and we did it in 3 days.
We were going at a lightning pace all 3 days. Like we were trying to get like 18 scenes. You're on a professional movie set, you get 1 to 2 screenplay pages done per day. You get like 2 screenplay pages done like perfectly. You light it perfectly, you block it perfectly, you get the shot, you get the actors. That's really like the maximum. On like your average middle budget shoot, maybe you get like 6 to 8 scenes. To do what we were doing, which was 16 to 18 scenes per day, I was like, that was crazy. A big mistake, huge mistake. Yes. You don't get that also in the movie because the movie is so languid and it's so it's so slow moving and so mindful. And that was, I think, the biggest accomplishment. Because the other thing that I wanted to say was that Jared had never taken on anything of the. I don't think any of us had, like anybody in that group had anything to do with anything being at the head of something that large. And I was so happy because he was up to the occasion, even though it was not intended. Jared was was ready for it in so many ways. Not like maybe ready for it is the wrong term, but just like connected with everything so well and was able to communicate everything so well through the movie itself. And I don't want to speak any more once again because I feel like I'm stealing your thunder.
No. I mean, I agree with, from the audience perspective, Julian, I agree with everything. I was impressed and also just proud to know Jared because of those accomplishments made. And as difficult as the process seemed like it was, I'm sure having such an amazing supporting cast and group made it that much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed it did.
Just nice to have that kind of synergy, to be able to communicate without really having to say all that much. Like everybody being on the same page, shockingly, because it's so unlike so many other student films. I don't know. I don't know if I want to start up that part of the conversation actually, because I feel like
I can't answer that.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Well, so this turned into a bigger project than you expected, and now it is what it is. It's a great short film, and you've submitted it into a couple festivals, and it's in a couple festivals now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Are we able to talk about where they're at currently?
Yeah, we definitely can. So New Jersey International Short Film Festival, which was the first one I got accepted into, actually just finished its run the 7th, but it was playing over there for a bit of a time. And that was technically an international competition. So there was a lot of other short films that were coming from around the world.
Wow.
Like I saw some from Taiwan. I saw Korea in there. I think there was a French one. It was very interesting. Of course, it was an excellent experience because this never happened to me before. But just being able to get in there with the talent that we had with our crew and cast, it was a nice feeling.
Absolutely. And so with the pandemic now, how are festivals working? Are a lot of them virtual? Are all of them virtual?
Yeah, a lot of them are definitely virtual. I know with Garden State, they're trying to do a hybrid thing where there's going to be a few locations. And actually, I don't know if I can talk about this part, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's a few locations where I think they are going to be screening these films for their viewing dates, but everything is happening streaming. So with NJISF, New Jersey International Short Film Festival, they used a streaming service called Zerb. And what you'd had to do was you had to submit an MP4 file up to that streaming service channel. And we had to notify the people over there, hey, my short film is playing. And then they'd attach it to whatever festival it was submitted into. And that's how it worked. You had to pay tickets, of course, to see the film. It was like $5. But yeah, it was unique. It was a very different situation to be in.
Sure. So, if someone who's listening now, I'd love to get into nitty gritty and ask really specific questions about the story, but unfortunately, most of the listeners aren't going to be able to see your film unless they pay for those festival tickets. Then I'm planning on trying to drop this specific podcast episode this week. So, what's the next kind of festival run your film's going to be in, and what's the best way for people to buy tickets, or do you not even know that yet?
I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Okay.
Ideally, it would be Garden State Film Festival, which I think is running from March 23rd to the 28th.
Okay.
I think they're still trying to discuss plans for how they're going to be selling the tickets. That's the part that I don't know yet.
Well, people can just do their own research. It's the Garden State Film Festival. I'm sure they have a website and stuff like that.
Yeah, they
and
do.
You'll be able to see the short film there.
The people who run that place are also pretty awesome. Yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
How long did it take from getting the idea in your head to finally finishing it and sending it into festivals? How long was that whole process?
It took us about a year to get through. The editing part was, of course, the most grueling part, and that took us about like a good 8 months. But that was more a matter of just trying to find the right pace. Initially, with this movie, I wanted to be incredibly slow. So you think this movie was slow? I actually had an extra 10 minutes onto this baby. It wasn't working, unfortunately, not the way that I wanted it to. But the next 8 months following the shoot in September was dedicated to just cutting this thing down. And then, of course, doing color correction and color grading, which he was a big part of. And then we had to send it off with editing process to our sound designer or sound editor. And she did a very good job with what I wanted with sound, because sound did play a big part into how we told the story. So it was a lot of nitty gritty. I guess that's what you'd expect. But yeah, it was all post.
The editing process was definitely, like, as grueling as it was, like, I loved being a part of that in so many ways, because so much of what I have to edit, and Russ, I know you know about a lot of the stuff that I have to go through at, like, on professional stuff when you freelance. It's really it pays, it's the definition of like pays the bills, or like just get your name out there kind of work. So when you're working and you're editing someone's work whose vision is so vast and so personal and so precise, it's a real treat, and I have to emphasize that, because that's not something that you come across when you're editing stuff. Like, a lot of problems that and I can't speak for you, I know that we've had these types of conversations, but I don't want to put words in your mouth in that regard, but a lot of problems that I personally have with a lot of movies, and television shows especially, is that there's never really anything being communicated by the shots themselves. And it's not a matter of like pretty cinematography, it's not a matter of like good looking lighting or good framing or good composition or anything along those lines. It's like, how does the image in and of itself communicate what the filmmaker is thinking of, what he thinks or she thinks the character is thinking, or how they're living their lives? That's not something that ever really gets captured in a lot of people's films, because they're so busy setting the camera up and just like filming the actors talking, and that's really it. And like, how do I get this emotion across as clearly as possible and to get to the next plot point of the plot? And so I really love filmmakers who use the camera in such a way to almost rewrite the scene in a lot of ways. So like people like the most obvious example that I can think of is Scorsese, who really launches his camera in every which way possible so that he is showing you the total highs of someone, you know, doing really immoral things, and you really see like, oh wow, this is actually kind of fun to, and I see why the person is doing all these horrible, terrible things, because it's making it seem like it's fun. And that's like one of the great things about him. And then you see like the utter lows, and you're just like, oh my goodness, I now see why, you know, the couple in the apartment above me are always arguing. I see exactly what it is that is causing all of those problems, because you see that kind of movie. And so to bring it all back, like with Jared's movie, you really get a sense of that style and that pacing, because he sets the camera and he goes with really long shots and he tries to stay far away, and you just see like total intent behind every shot. And it's not just like, let me place the camera here and that's just gonna get the actor saying this line. It's never like that. It's very much like, I'm setting the camera here and I want the scene to play out from this angle and I want it to be for this long. And like he would give me that direction. I try to abide by it as best as I could. After he had put together the initial cut, it was just like a matter of like, okay, this is where we're going to be able to follow through on that, but here we're going to need to cut it a little bit differently. But still, like, it just, the feel of it is just so intense and so clear.
Spirituality.
It's a spiritual thing at the end of the day, because there's no.
It's I guess it matters what we're trying to get at the end of the day. Is it's more of what a movie says about this individual who made it, instead of what is this movie saying just by itself.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think we also felt that in Eric. I don't know if you realize, we've mentioned this on the podcast before. You remember the Phantom Pants, Eric? You remember that video?
Oh, yeah.
Jared wrote and directed Phantom Pants.
Did you really? That was my favorite. That was my favorite one of the working title, right? That was what that was called. That was my favorite working title video.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
That's something.
The creator.
Say that again.
I said I'm so happy to finally meet the creator.
Yeah, that I don't, no comment.
Well, that's at least something our listeners can actually go and see. Phantom Pants working title TIDAL on the internet, unless you don't want them to see it for some reason, Jared.
Can you talk about your inspiration behind that, or would you rather just keep it a mystery? Does that also come from real life, or is that more?
So did you guys hear about Phantom Thread?
Yeah, that's another Paul Thomas Anderson film, right?
Yeah, I was a very big Paul Thomas Anderson fan at one point, and I looked at this title and I'm like, it's a pretty nice title. So what I ended up doing was I took this title, I just crossed it out and I made pants. And at the same time that I watched this movie, I had a nightmare where I was in an office and nobody was wearing pants. No, I'm sorry, they weren't wearing underwear at the time, and I thought that was weird. And I was also on a Bruce Springsteen kick because of this guy, so there was a lot of Bruce Springsteen. It was very strange. It's an over an explanation, I suppose, but
it came to you in a dream.
It came to me in a dream.
The whole thing came to you in a dream.
Yeah.
I'd also. Oh, sorry. Did you have another thing, Eric?
No, I just said thank you. I'm so grateful for Phantom Pants.
We all are. I wanted to just also briefly mention that Julian here just finished up a short film. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Julian? Are we allowed to?
Jared, can you give me an answer for that?
I think you should.
Oh my goodness, I know I shouldn't have trusted you to give me the right answer. I don't know. What is there to talk about with that?
Well, first of all, it's a big accomplishment, so congratulations. I got to see it. It came out wonderful. Do you have plans on submitting it to festivals, or is it just something for you?
I was just thinking about how I should be getting on that. I'm really bad at self-promotion. I'm really bad at being able to promote something when I finish it. I know that I should, because a lot of time and energy went into it, and it is fairly accomplished, I guess.
It
is the word.
You definitely have a lot of people talking about it. Specifically the relationships to the characters. I'd have to think about this. So essentially, it's a story about the perspective of I don't even know how to.
So the whole movie was a narrative experiment. I wanted to play around with structure. So there's a filmmaker that I absolutely adore. He's South Korean. His name is Hong Sang-soo. He comes out with like 3 movies a year because he's a nut. Uses the same style of filmmaking from film to film, where it's just like these really awkward, very long 2 shots, and he zooms in on some characters when he wants to really ratchet up the anxiety, and then he comes back out and he zooms in on another character and he pans between them, and it's just like the really interestingly framed shots where he throws these really absurd narratives together that kind of like peel back like oranges, or they're like building blocks. Like he'll put a block here and then he'll put a block there, and you're just like, I don't understand how these 2 blocks relate. And then like he'll put another block, and then you'll be like, oh, I'm starting to see the connection. And then it kind of just all, falls down onto itself in some way. It's just like they're really beautiful, really elegant, really hilarious movies. So I was extremely under the influence of his films, and I wanted to do something like he did in this movie that I just finished, where I wanted to do something where a character in the 3rd act wants something that she rejected in the 1st act, and it's the want of that thing that she rejected is spurred by something that happened in the 2nd act, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm of course I had the pleasure of seeing it, and I saw that clearly in the film.
And like that's the architecture, I guess, is why I wanted to make that movie in the first place, and that's really the biggest thing. And I wanted to try and see if I could invert a lot of the films that I was thinking about and watching when I was making that movie. Part of it, I don't know, I can't speak about it as like it's hard to talk about in a lot of ways, because a lot of the lines were kind of just like, let's just get this part across and let me just film it in a way that I really enjoy. I don't know. I don't know how else to explain it. There's a lot of influences where I was just like, I'm feeling this movie right here, and I kind of like the idea of externalizing the characters' lives through this moment in this movie that I really liked.
And you found a way to make it quite relatable, I think. And I hope that other people will get a chance to somehow see it sometime soon, because I think it's a cool little story.
I appreciate that, Russ. And Russ also was gracious enough to be able to contribute his music making talents to a scene in the movie, which I'm also very thankful for.
Oh, it was an honor. I was so excited to do it for you.
We had a song that we didn't have the rights to, and I was talking to Russ about it, and he was just like, I could write a song for that scene. And I was just like, oh my goodness, would you? And he was like, yeah. And it was so nice to be able to hear another one of those things where it's just like the melding of influence, but then coming out the other side with something totally different and something totally cool and new. And I was just cracking up listening to the song we had made, and I was just like, it is this thing that we had originally, but it's also like Russ. It's also that the casualness that I love about how you'll just come up with something and it'll be like both hilarious and touching at the same time.
Well, I'm obviously just ecstatic that I was able to help in any way and make something that you were happy with, and it was fun. And it's to be able to work alongside both of you and be able to have a hand in something. It's a privilege. We should wrap things up. Are you two interested in possibly playing a quick game of this or that?
Sure.
Yeah? Do you know how to play?
No.
Essentially, we're going to give you 2 options, and you have to pick between this or that.
All right.
Eric, do you have any this or that? Do you want me to go to my handy dandy list?
Okay, so for my first this or that for you guys, I'm going to go with Ari Aster or Robert Eggers.
What is the second one?
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers. Ooh, let's
pick my poison.
Yeah.
I guess Robert Eggers at that point.
Yeah.
The VVH was a good movie.
Yeah, the VVH is the most tolerable thing.
The Lighthouse.
And don't even get me started on Hereditary.
Oh boy.
Oof.
Yeah. Robert Eggers for both of us.
Yeah, sorry.
I would also choose Robert Eggers.
Good stuff.
Oh wait, that reminded me of another. Okay, Siskel or Ebert?
Another.
Both.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I think I'd have to go with Siskel
I
because
agree.
he was a man of few words. His reviews said absolutely nothing. And I take that over Roger Ebert and whatever the heck he says. So yeah, Siskel for the both of us again.
Yeah.
Word. All right, some lighter ones here. Saturdays or Sundays?
Another pick your place.
I'm a Saturday guy.
Right.
I'm a Saturday guy. I hate Sundays because they always get me anxious for Mondays.
Yeah.
I think that's the case for a lot of people too. So definitely Saturday for me.
Can I go in between and say I'm a Sunday morning kind of guy?
But does that morning outweigh the whole Saturday?
I guess I would say, yeah, I would say to be simple, I would say Sunday, but it's more Sunday morning because I also get anxious once I think 11 o'clock in the morning hits.
11 o'clock, yeah, the day's over at
Days
11.
over at 11.
I would not trust a Sunday afternoon, Sunday night guy. That's just stay away from that person. That's not somebody you want to be involved with.
Yeah, I think Saturday is the pick.
But I do kind of agree with Julian though. Like Sunday mornings are kind of nice before the dread of the week sets in.
Oh yeah,
It's
Yeah.
also a great Velvet
Velvet
Underground
Underground.
song.
yeah. Sunday morning, early dawn.
It's a great song to listen to after a hard day's night of debauchery.
Debauchery.
Sunday morning.
So, okay.
Can we play this or that?
I'll give you one more. Unless Eric, did you have another?
Futurama or The Simpsons?
Futurama or The Simpsons?
Simpsons?
I
We don't really watch either of them.
No, we never watched any of them,
It's good.
unfortunately.
It's fun to watch the clips though, and I find myself gravitating more towards Simpsons clips.
Probably, yeah.
They're pretty good.
Well, you guys aren't super into TV shows, right? Or am I just?
Well,
Funny you should say that.
we got into WandaVision recently.
Yes.
Oh yeah, what do you think about that so far?
It's amazing.
Are you caught up?
Yes, we every week we're like, we got to watch
We're
this.
just so
We
looking
got to watch
forward
it.
on Friday. It's just like, oh, I forgot WandaVision. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
Mm.
It's a fun time, and I think they're setting up something very exciting for the MCU. So I'm really excited for Doctor Strange 2. I'm really excited for Spider-Man 3. Multiverse in general. It's a cool idea, and I love when the comics explore that. So yeah, WandaVision, great time.
That's awesome. All right, I got one for you guys. Haiku or epic poem?
Oh, haiku,
Haiku, for sure.
Why?
Got to amend a few words over here.
That's fair.
Less is better, I suppose, and I guess less has more impact in the long run than reading an epic. But I can't speak for you. What would you say?
Haiku. I'm not. I don't know if I can in good faith consider myself a man of few words, because I speak like a 18th century Victorian novel, or 19th century if I'm getting my timelines wrong. See, that's what I mean. But no, I do prefer haikus. I don't know if there should be a why, because I feel like that's kind of antithetical to a haiku.
That's fair.
Epic poems are kind of just tiresome after a while. I mean, I enjoy some of them, but it's like, and if I had a choice, it'd definitely be the time-saving and much more rewarding haiku.
You know what? I didn't even think about this when I asked that one, but I remember, Julian, you showed me, this must have been years ago now, these little projects that you were making, and you called them like short video haikus.
Mm-hmm.
Am I speaking
Visual
out of time?
haikus.
Yeah.
Visual haikus. Could you explain what that was?
Me not being able to make narrative films and wanting to also combine photography and videos. This is all just still images for the most part, but they were moving at the same time because I just wanted
Yeah.
people. So the entire thing is 3 shots, a 5-second shot, a 7-second shot, and a 5-second shot, and simple and nice to make. I haven't put together one in a while, but I have footage to make many ones. I just never had the inclination since, but it'll call again one of these days. But yeah, I was actually about to mention that.
Yeah, they were absolutely lovely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you two joining us this evening. It's always great to see your beautiful faces and chit chat. And I'm happy that I have a forum to be able to just talk straight business with you two when it comes to the short films you're working on.
The art and business of filmmaking.
Should we end this baby on a off the cuff haiku? Is that asking too much?
I don't know.
That requires a lot of talent. I don't have the talent of memorization, unfortunately, Russ. I forget everything.
Hold on. I'm coming.
Oh, I'll make up a haiku.
Yeah.
I do this all the time in Ghost of Tsushima. I got nothing.
Okay.
I have no talent. It's better not to speak. I'm trying to find the 7th word. It's better not to speak mind. Refrigerator. There we go.
Did you hear that?
I don't know. Did he? Did
Say
you?
that.
Yeah. Can I try one?
Please.
Of course.
I love Julian and Jared Garcia. Yeah. See y'all next week, babe.
If you say beb, like B-E-B, that's one syllable.
Babe.
See you next
week.
week.
Oh, you're right. Babe is two.
See you next week.
How about see you all next week?
Sounds good.
I can't really count. Haikus are really hard. This is my best. Thank you.
I love it, Eric.
We're all poets.
One thing I did want to talk about also is just something that was always a lot of fun to think about is how your opinions of things change over time. Because a lot of the movies that I had watched, and Jared as well, like when we discovered in our mutual appreciation for movies, and there's a lot of movies that we actually can't stand.
I'm sorry, I was thinking, I met PTA and I gave him a handshake.
Yeah.
And that saying of never meet your heroes.
Why? What happened there? I think I remember you telling me this story, but the fact that we're recording it, you better say it again.
Yeah, I shook his hand and I said, "Thank you very much, PTA," and he said, "Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for coming." And at that moment, I was like, I don't think I like him anymore.
Well, what did you want him? What were you expecting him to say?
Absolutely nothing. I expected nothing from him, but I guess I did expect something from him. So I don't know.
What was his tone? Was it goofy?
He's a human. Whatever.
Yeah, it was.
He's mortal.
Yeah, it was whatever at that point, which is understandable. You know, I think in his perspective, he had like a 17-year-old punk who was probably from film school, may or may have not been at that time. Just come up to him and say very awkwardly, "Thank you." I get it.
I don't know.
It's difficult.
It's difficult, yeah. It's difficult.
For sure.
I still love the man's movies though.
Yeah. I know I don't really hate him, but I just found that interaction just to be like, oh man,
I never should have done that.
I shouldn't have done that at all.
Well, guess what? You got a cool story out of it, and I'm sure the next time you two cross paths, he wouldn't have remembered it unless he did.
No, not one bit.
Oh, not this kid again.
Not this.
How many times I gotta say you're welcome, kid?
It was also I have one with Ginger and Noosh, but he was a little more friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I was at a screening for Uncut Gems at the New York Film Festival, and we walked right past him, and I yelled as I was walking, "Oh my God, Jim Jarmusch! I'm such a huge fan!" And he just says, "Oh, thank you."
That's nice.
And I think I freaked him out at the same time because he's just there with his crazy hair and his awesome face and his great sense of style and his just nice overall aura. And it was like that was probably not the best way to end his night. Why not? I don't know.
Do you think? I mean, has there been other instances where you see heroes of yours or just famous people in general? Do you guys get starstruck easy?
I do.
You do?
It's not necessarily for their star power, but just how much their films and their work in general has had such a huge effect. Like I know that the idea is like, oh, they're people as well, and they're just they're just as scared or this or that. Kind of neglects the monumental influence so much of their art has had on Like I remember standing behind Jonathan Demme, who's a huge influence on everything that I do. Silence of the Lambs is of course the big one. Something Wild is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it was sad because I loved his movie so passionately, and I loved how bouncy and zany and fun and stylish they were. And I stood behind him on an elevator and I didn't say anything, or an escalator, I mean, and he died the next year. And I was like, I look back on that and I was just like, I really missed out a chance to at least say thank you for the woes his films had cured for me in a lot of ways. For showing me a different way of making films, for saying, hey, you don't have to do things the way that other people usually do. You can do it in this offbeat, funky kind of way and still be widely respected and loved.
Sure.
And that really means like so much to me. And that's one of those things where I do get starstruck, and it does make me sad, but I don't think it's without reason at the end of the day.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's absolutely fair.
I don't know if I have anything of that measure to say against what you said. I think at the end of the day, though, I find it weird that we have heroes and we just want to just go up to them and just have a random conversation with them. Because I also go by the logic of these are just people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I guess I also get kind of curious about how willing they want to interact with people. I feel like a lot of my heroes, at least, they seem very insular, and they're very much in their own world. So I feel like trying to just start a conversation with them about anything in particular even is not very worth it. But I don't know. And again, there's Julian with his meeting of Jim Jarmusch. He did miss that meeting with Jonathan Demme. Maybe there would have been good things that came out of that conversation. But again, I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Well, I guess I was excited. I'm excited to see how you two would react in the near future when young go-getters like yourselves say that your films inspired them. See if you'll kick them down the stairs or something.
Get away from me.
If a wide-eyed 17-year-old comes up to you to compliment you, remember, just don't say anything. Just walk away. You'll make an impression. You'll seem so much cooler.
Just look them dead in the eye and say, you're making a big mistake, kid.
Just thinking PTA, like, nah.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Thanks.
Maybe it's just that Hollywood lifestyle, the hustle and bustle.
No, in all honesty, I'm pretty sure he was being nice about it. But
Everything is just such a different experience when you're right there, not standing outside of yourself.
yes.
But The Phantom Thread is still a fantastic movie. I encourage anyone who hasn't seen it to go see it.
Yeah. Watch
Great score. Phenomenal score.
Oh yeah, Johnny Greenwood, yeah.
Shout out to Johnny.
Johnny knows what he's doing, man. And you know who really hit the scene this year? Trent Reznor.
Mm-hmm.
His film scores have been off the charts.
Did he do this film score for Mank?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay. I don't remember it very well.
He did the score for Social Network, didn't he?
I think he did Social Network, but he did quite a handful of pretty acclaimed films this year. The one from Mank, I didn't know it was him until the end. Mank was like, oh, like if someone told me that this movie was made in 1938, I would believe them because the way it looked, the way that the pace, but also the music, because they had the music sound old and nostalgic like that. And the fact that freaking Nine Inch Nails frontman Trent Reznor got that sound pretty flawlessly, that's what surprised me. But perhaps you're not remembering it the same way I am.
You're actually just talking about how we should watch that one again.
Yeah.
Because neither of us really liked it very much.
I wasn't super into it.
Mhm.
Like, I don't really know why I thought I would have been, because it's not really a story I am super interested in. I was like, I get it. Yeah, he wanted to write a movie, and so he did, and he's a wild character. But it was just that I just remember noting in my head, like, I don't know why they're trying to make it seem like it was a movie from back then, but they are, and they're going with it, and they're doing a pretty good job. And then it just said music by Trent Reznor, and that surprised me in a good way.
It's funny because I've been watching, so the movie has a character who's the main character's brother named Joseph Mankiewicz, and I've actually been watching a lot of his movies, preferring his films as of late to anything that Herman Mankiewicz had worked on, because Joseph Mankiewicz directed All About Eve. So if you're familiar with the line, buckle up, it's going to be a bumpy night. Joe Mankiewicz, Herman Mankiewicz's brother, wrote that line for a movie that eventually went on to sweep all of the Oscars in 1950, and is regularly cited as one of the greatest movies of all time. I think that he's made better movies, but All About Eve, which is the movie that Joe Mankiewicz made, is awesome, and he's just a genius on another level. I don't know. I don't really want to get too far into that because that's gonna go crazy. But like, I love what I guess I love what that movie has inspired inside of me, even though I didn't really like the movie, to just start looking into or re-looking into Joseph Mankiewicz's films, because it had been like a good 10 years since I've seen a lot of them, and so I was just like, this Mankiewicz fellow seems like a cool dude. And then watching his movies again, I'm just like, oh my god, he's a genius. There's so many things that I didn't understand and didn't appreciate 10 years ago. And that's something that, to tie back into this original, the beginning of this, what's the word, this detour, where it was like, it's funny seeing films that you love that you now hate, because like the movies that you started on are now movies that I denounce regularly, and movies I didn't care for, absolutely hated back then, are now movies that I love and endorse and try to champion as much as I can now.
Yeah, it's a curse. You kind of become like a crotchety old man. You just hate everything now. Like 5 years back, you love Wes Anderson, you love Stanley Kubrick, you love everything, and then 5 years later, you hate them all.
Well, then I wonder if in the next 5 years you fall back in love with the thing you've come to hate.
Nah, no, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Hate is a strong word, and I like the quote that John Cassavetes says, who's another fellow I love. Hate is just the absence of love.
I like what Drake said. I can't remember what he said. Jealousy is just love and hate at the same time. Has nothing to do with anything. It just like yeah.
Welcome back. And the winner of our 100th episode spectacular is Frank from Idaho. We'll be sending you your hairs one by one. Might take a couple years.
Yep, and I mean, with the pandemic and everything, the mail's a little slow. So just bear with us. Just bear with us. You'll get
Bear with us.
Yeah.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that wonderful, wonderful interview with our very good friends. We got Jared Garcia. We got Julian Garcia, but we couldn't book Jerry Garcia too. Sorry, everyone.
No.
2 out of the 3 best Jay Garcias.
Not bad at all. We hope to have him on
bad.
again soon, because there's so much more. There's so many more things that we can talk about that we didn't get to. But this was a really solid episode, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah, this is really good, right?
Yeah. Well, if you want more.
This is what confidence sounds like. Right? Right? Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for more cool interviews like this, make sure you check in next week on Soundtown, when we got another brand spanking new episode for you. And if this is your first episode of Soundtown, we've got 14 other killer episodes for you to go back and listen to. So...
Hope this isn't your last.
I hope, yeah. If this is the... Sorry. How could it be, though? Those two, they're charmers.
True.
Julian and Jared, they're charmers. But
what if it's not those two that they had a problem with? What if it's a different two people that they have a problem with?
Oh.
What
I'll
if
beat
it's
you up
us?
then. How about that? If you got a problem, I will fight you. Call me. All right, well... I don't want to fight anybody. I'm sorry.
Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again to our guests, Jared and Julian. Love them to death. Thanks for sticking with us on this fairly different episode of Soundtown where we talked about movies instead of music. But we wanted to promote our friends' art. We think they deserve it. Go check out Still With Us at Garden State Film Festival and any other festivals it might be dropping at. And make sure you come back real soon to Soundtown.
You don't need me to be here.
Sit down, let me take care of that for you.
It's fine, John. You're mature enough to be on your own. I think that's just something you have over your sister.
Did you really have to break your arm today?
I'm sorry, did you prefer I did it Wednesday?
No, I would have preferred you hadn't done it at all. How can you be so certain?
Because I know.
Last time we spoke, all I could focus on was her face. Couldn't tell if she was lying or saying farewell.
I'm sorry.
What was that? Don't cry, John. Maxine is still with us.